Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Confidence Conversations podcast. And it's my very great pleasure today to welcome our first male voice of this series. Male voice, that's made you sound like a choir now, right? Ricky Locke, hello.
Hello, yeah, lovely to be invited on the podcast. Yes, I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm really excited for this conversation because my kind of brief to you was let's talk about the difference between male and females in confidence. Let's have a bit of a conversation about that. So before we get into that, do you want to just introduce yourself to the listeners, the watchers, the podcast people out there?
Sure, yeah. So, hello, everybody. Whether you're watching this or listening to this, my name is Ricky Locke. I am a professional speaker. I'm an award-winning wedding magician. I'm host of the Unlock podcast, and I also run a company with the co-founders of the Confident Club, and we help people to unlock presentation mastery.
So just a few things going on then for you.
It's just a few, yeah. And dad and life and all that as well, Jazz, as well.
Everything else in the background. So let's start with the main question then of that I ask most people, and that is, what does confidence mean to you?
Oh, good question. So I think confidence is a state of, I'm just turning my fan off near my my feet, which is not the answer to the question. I think confidence is like a state of flow. So when we talk about like flow state, for example, in the Confident Club, we teach presentation skills and confidence really to deliver and communicate with impact. And we always say about how a flow state is like when like a 40-minute presentation feels like 4 minutes. You just can't remember what happened because you're just having so much fun. You're out of your head. Because the opposite to flow state is when like a 4-minute presentation feels like 40 minutes and you can remember everything you said and did. And you just want to get off the stage. So to me, I think confidence is a state that you get into where you can just be the best version of yourself. You're in flow, you're happy, you're smiling, you just feel great. And there's not like a single care in the world.
Yeah. And I think everyone listening has probably at your 40-minute presentation just taken a massive deep breath and gone, I'd rather die probably than do a presentation for 40 minutes. Because isn't there a statistic somewhere about that, which is just, it's amazing, isn't it? Because you and I have got a similar background in learning and development where we've, stood up in front of lots of people at different various times in our career. And people always say, oh, I bet you don't get nervous because you do that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I do. It doesn't stop me from doing it, but oh yeah, I do. And I go down all the road of, if I'm going somewhere, I've got all the adapters. I've got 4 different versions of my presentation. I've got it saved somewhere else. I've got printouts, all of that kind of thing as well. There's no just rocking up for me.
I think it's used in NLP quite a lot, which is the top 3 fears in life. Number 3 is dying, and number 1 is public speaking, which means people would rather die than get up on stage and present. And what you said there, Gail, about the nervous, like we kind of reframe everything in what we do. There's a famous story. Now, forgive me for the listeners. I believe it's Carly. Is it Carly Scott? I think Carly Scott, famous singer.
I don't know.
I can't remember her name.
I don't know.
Whatever her name was. But let's just imagine, we'll change the name to like someone like Shania Twain. Let's go that. That's easy to remember.
Okay.
There's an old story where Shania Twain is on stage in one state in America. And on the opposite side of America, probably on the east side, you got Bruce Springsteen. And they're just about to go out and deliver their big concert. And Shania Twain is like, she goes, oh my God, my heart's pumping. My heart's pumping. I feel stiff in my muscles. I'm sweating. I can't do this. Then you got the opposite side of the world where obviously Bruce Springsteen is. And he goes, oh my God, I'm just about to walk out. My heart's pumping. I feel stiff in my muscles. I'm sweating. I'm ready. And it's that whole difference between, you know what? Yeah, absolutely. We all get like a sense of something, but it's what you call it. So yeah, people might call it nerves, but I go, no, cool. I get adrenaline. I get really excited. This knows that I'm ready. If I'm sweating, my heart's racing. I'm ready to go out and deliver. It's just about choosing what do you want to believe? Because most people just go, oh my God, I'm sweating. I'm panicking. I can't do this. No. Actually, this is good. This is just your body going, hey, it's about you to get into state and ready. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's the one of the key words for me as well around confidence and things that we do like that is choose. We've always got a choice, right? To select what state we want to be in, how we want to be, how we're going to deliver it, how we're going to react to something. We've always got a choice.
Yeah, totally. One of my favorite things, I deliver this in one of my keynotes. I've got a keynote called Magical Resilience. The pun is in it. There is magic involved because magic is such a great metaphor to share ideas and stories. But I use a principle that was, I think, originally published by Jack Canfield in the Success Principles, and it's been made more famous now by Paul McGee, the sumo guy. So check out them; they're really good guys. And the principle is this: is E plus R equals O, which stands for the event plus your response equals the outcome. So in that example we just mentioned there, the event is I'm just about to go deliver my concert or my keynote. The response is I'm sweating, I'm panicking, I'm not doing this, I can't do it. And we meet people in the Confident Club where they say, Ricky, I just wanted to let you know I've been invited to present a keynote at my annual conference later this year. I go, fantastic, great. How are you feeling? I'm absolutely terrified. Oh my God. I've pulled out of it. I said, why? I just can't do it. And then the outcome happens, and then they watch the conference. They go, God, I wish I did it now. I feel really down. I wish I did that. So what we need to understand is those R's, the response. There's actually only 3 R's that we can deal with, which is our thoughts, our feelings, and our stories that we tell ourselves. And maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But you're right; it's absolutely a choice. Most people believe that their mood is dictated by the weather. Yes, I mean medically there is a is it seasonal something the SAD disorder,
isn't it? It's seasonal affective disorder. Yeah.
But actually there's a choice because we know this from anchors and smells and stuff. There's things that we can do to get us into state. So yeah, maybe we'll talk about it later on.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about the weather. Actually, I'm sat here now and it's raining. It's meant to be summer, right? But yesterday morning I went for a walk, early walk, down by the water, and it was beautiful sunshine. I had sun cream on, it was like lovely. This morning it was raining and I sat there and thought, oh, shall I? So I put my waterproof on, I went out and it was great. Actually, I didn't get that wet in the end. So it would have been so easy to choose to just sit around and, not doing it, or maybe start work earlier, which is what normally happens. But actually I was like, no, and it felt quite fun to beat the weather. It felt, I don't know, it just gave me a different feeling. And there you go. Again, there's that feeling, isn't it? Of, I can beat the weather. Yeah. I can go out and maybe not get wet. So you've talked a lot there.
You just... Sorry. Oh, sorry. We're two confidence people. We just haven't put up with chocolate. Sorry. You've reminded me of last week. I'm very lucky and very grateful. Just come back from a lovely family holiday in Lanzarote. Before I went, everyone... So you obviously don't have children, so you probably get a lot more better sleep than me, Gail.
Yeah, probably. To be fair, yeah.
So if anybody's watching this on the video, you'll see these bags. These were not here a couple of years ago, but yeah, my daughter, she is about 156 weeks old. So she's 2.5. We're still playing that game in the Locke household. Okay. But before my holiday, everyone said to me, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Lanzarote. I said, oh, how long's the flight? I said, 4.5 hours. They went, you got a toddler? I'm like, yeah. They went, oh, good luck, mate. That is going to be hell for you. Now, here's the thing. I believe that we get to choose our experiences and it shouldn't be dictated by other people. But if I'd have chosen, like you said, with the rain story, if I'd have chosen to believe that that is going to be hell for me, that's what I'm going to get. Me and Danielle chose to believe this is going to be an adventure. This is going to be fun. Gail, was it fun?
Yes-ish.
It was absolutely not fun. No, I'm joking aside. It was 90% fun. There was a 10%, about 15, 20 minutes where she absolutely lost her state and wanted to go, oh, rigor mortis and all that, and we were embarrassed. However, the rest of it was fine. But that's because we were paying attention to. There's a fun story. I don't know if I can quickly share this quick fun story. It's an old story. But I think this will resonate with a lot of listeners. So do you know the story about Socrates?
Oh, I don't know. I always say I don't know, and then I hear it and I go, oh, yeah, I did. Go on, tell us.
Okay, so Socrates, for those who don't know, ancient philosopher, he's walking around Greece one day having a leisurely stroll. He stops by the side of the road and he reaches into his satchel and he pulls out some delicious food that his wife has just made for him. He's just about to take a bite, and then a traveller stops by. And traveller says, now then, is this the road to Athens? By the way, that a lot of people from ancient Greece were actually from the north of England. Just
from Lincolnshire, I think, there.
That's right, yeah. He says, now then, is this the road to Athens? And Socrates says, why, yes, it is. And he says, would you mind telling me what the people of Athens are like? He says, okay, before I tell you that, please tell me where you're from and what the people like there, and I can tell you what the people of Athens are like. And he said, okay, well, I'm very pleased to say that I'm from Argos, and I'm really, really pleased to say that the people there are the most nicest, loveliest, and most helpful people you could ever meet. Socrates says, great. well, I'm very pleased to tell you the people of Athens are exactly the same. Socrates carries on walking. The traveller makes his way to Athens, pleased with himself, with his humanity, and thinking how nice and kind humans are. He reaches into his satchel and pulls out his wineskin to have a little drink. Just about to take a drink, traveller stops him and says, "Now then, is this the road to Athens?" And he says, "Why, yes, it is." And he says, "Would you mind telling me what the people of Athens are like?" And he says, "Before I tell you, tell me where you're from, what the people are there like, and I can tell you." He said, "Well, I'm from Argos, and I'm very, very disappointed to tell you that the people there are the most meanest, grumpiest, and unhelpful people you could ever meet." Socrates says, "Well, I'm very disappointed to tell you that the people in Athens are exactly the same."
Mm-hmm.
The reason we tell you that story is because you get what you focus on and what we pay attention to. So like your story with the rain, my story with Lanzarote, if we start telling these stories that this is going to be a bad experience, I'm going to mess up, this is going to be really bad for me, it's all we pay attention to. So you've got to be really careful, because those stories that you tell yourself and what you visualize could come a reality. You just got to be really careful what you tell yourself.
Yeah, and the stories that we tell ourselves. So I'm a big fan of Brené Brown, and she has what she talks about the stories you tell yourself as well. But one of the things she talks about is the shitty first draft. You know, the thing you tell yourself when something goes wrong, how crap it was, how bad it went. But actually, when you step back from that and you reflect, you might go, oh, actually, well, what I've learned from that. And that was one of the things I think I learned when I first started my business, which was 5 years ago now, was that reframe of I made a mistake or I failed to, well, actually, that didn't go quite as I planned. But what have I learned from that? Because there'll always be a learning. And just reframing it so that, because I had to go out and do it again. I had to. In most cases, there was something that didn't go well that I was like, well, I can't not go to that networking again, or I can't, go and stand in front of that person again. Just that reframe, and yes, okay, let's be realistic, right? You can't do that all the time, because there are going to be some things that are going to knock you sideways or whatever. But on the most occasions, you can do that. You've got a choice, haven't you?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it's that compounding effect, isn't it, over time as well? Because we're like confidence coaches, we love personal development. Quite often this happens on a podcast where we do quote tennis. I'm going to give you a quote, then you come up with one.
Yeah.
But this one's really apparent to what you said there, that, that shitty first draft. It's one of my favorite people at the minute, which is Vin Yang, who's also a magician as well and a keynote speaker. Mm-hmm. And he has this wonderful quote, which is, "Don't be so attached to who you are in the present that you don't give the future version of yourself a chance." And it's true. We can get hung up on that really shitty first draft, but it's just an outcome. It wasn't anything, no failure, only feedback. It's just something that happened. It wasn't the deciding fact. But actually, it's just an outcome. What can we learn from that? Great. Oh, fascinating. Maybe I won't do that again. Or what could I learn differently? Great. And then if you compound it over time, think back in 10, 20 years' time, go into Van der Varga, who we're good friends with, she said something really important to me the other day. She went, imagine going into a time machine in 10 years' time and then look back at that moment, let's say the shitty first draft, and just what would you say to yourself? Well, I'd probably look at it and just laugh and go, what a small blip of time, because now look at me. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great example. I mean, I'm a big fan of Back to the Future as well in the films. I mean, I'm showing my age here right now as well. But when you think about if you had a DeLorean, what would you do? You would probably go back and go, oh wow, look at that. And why did I worry about that so much? Or why did I give that so much focus when actually, like you say, it was just a small amount of the adventure that we're on, or there's something that happened. But look at what you've learned. You've learned from that as well.
Yeah. God. So I'm loving this conversation, Gal, because you're just making my brain go, wow. I talk about this a lot. And this is quite apparent by what we said off air. I lost my best friend recently, unfortunately. And the 4,000 week model by, I think it's Oliver Berkman. He's got a great book. And the idea is that the average human has 4,000 weeks, which means that we roughly get to about 80 years old, give or take. It might be longer in the future. AI, who knows? My friend obviously didn't make that. He probably made 3,000 weeks maybe. But when if you used to visualize that, you can print these. They're fascinating. You can buy these posters, which is the 4,000 week, and you can scratch off how many weeks you've lived. Look at that. It really puts things into perspective. You think, oh God, how much of my life I've got left? But then those shitty first drafts and those bad weeks, let's say you were to colour green everything and I'll just put a bit of red on those shitty first ones. It's a small number. It's tiny. It's probably like 3 weeks, 4 weeks worth. Who knows, right? But in the main, scheme of things, actually, it's just something small, but it got you to where you want. So it's important that we have those moments because that's what makes us stronger. That's what makes us more confident. That's how we push forward.
Yeah, and where we learn and grow, and also build resilience as well in those moments, don't we? As well, depending on how we frame them and how we see them, they're all linked, aren't they? So
yeah, definitely.
I'm really interested about. I know we've talked in the past about kind of our respective retail journeys. Do you think that retail, or how did your retail, and I've just said the word journey, oh, what is wrong with me? How did your retail experience, let's say, kind of help with your confidence? Because I think I can look back on that and go, it gave me a lot of confidence.
Yeah. Oh, good question. So I think it's one of the greatest things I ever did. At the time, you didn't realize it because you don't really know. In hindsight, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. Firstly, it made me understand how to speak to people correctly. As you all know in retail, sometimes people can talk to you. I can swear, can't I? Because we said shitty first draft.
Of course, yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. You go for it. You do you.
People spoke to me like shit.
Yeah.
I won't say the word that they said.
No.
But I've had customers throw things at me. I got called the C word, But what made me as a leader as well, made me how to build rapport with my team and how to understand each other, So I think, if anything, that was a certainly great thing. So events, conferences, talking to people, mastering rapport and mastering communication, wouldn't have got that from that environment. There's also resilience as well from it. So obviously I was working in one of the biggest digital retailers in the UK at the time, which was Argos, and it was a fast-paced environment. Now, back in the day, Argos was very much a case of Christmas Eve, everyone was in there. It was mainly generalizing and stereotyping. I shouldn't generalize, but mainly men going into the jewelry counter to buy jewelry. But it was packed out. So it was such a great environment, so much fun. You had to run around, pace, tickets are coming out, and you had to run the stock room and get it. And it was such a great environment that learned how to deal with resilience and stress. But if anything, it made and shaped who I am today because I didn't understand the greater picture of where I was going. I knew there was something there, and a lot of my managers saw something in me. But all the time I was building where I got to now. So I was doing magic tricks in the staff room. I was doing lots of other things, building my presence. And I realized now, God, if I'd have known what I was building at the time, wow, maybe I could have done even more. But it's a huge, it was quite long. It was 15 years. Yeah. It would have been nicer probably if it was a bit shorter because it took me to about, what am I now? So probably 28, 29 to realize what I want to do. So, yeah, absolutely shaped it massively. What about for you?
Yeah, I think it's the same. So, I mean, I did a degree in retail management, and I say this all the time. It didn't teach me how to run a store or how to manage people. I learned that as I went and failed fast on a lot of occasions. And I think for me, there's no other manager like a retail manager because you're all things to all people, right? So you're the salesperson, you're the leader, you're the rota king or queen, you're HR, you're therapy, you're the cleaner at times, right, as well. You're spinning so many plates. But you're also accountable then for the sales and the store cards. And my last frontline retail, of course, I'm doing a lot of this week. It's a bit cringy.
It's me probably. That's why.
No, it's not. I'm doing it with everybody. I need to sit on my hands. I think for me, my last frontline retail role was Monsoon Accessorize. I'm going back a long time now. And of course, Christmas Eve was very similar for us as well. A lot of men buying presents, but also then there was the sale, right, as well, and which brought in a whole different kind of customer. But I think for me, a lot like you just brought something up for me then as well when you said, well, there's two things. Well, there's lots of things, but actually the two main things were, it brought out the piece in me where I love development and I love working with my team. I loved that more than the sales and the targets, all the stuff that I hated and again probably wasn't that great at because I told myself I hated it and I wasn't great at it. Looking back, But also for me, there's something in all of the stuff that I've done since, whether that was with Ann Summers with learning and development, but working with colour profiling, which I've done for about the last 16 years, and understanding people and getting to know people and then coaching. And if I'd have been exposed to that as a manager, how different might my management journey have been? They're all
Yeah.
things we don't know. And like you say, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But I think retail has this habit, doesn't it, of picking you up, carrying you along and dropping you out the other side almost. I mean, I wouldn't want to do it now. I really admire the retail heroes that are out there now. But I think it gives you such a grounding that you probably don't get. You make mistakes, you learn.
Yeah.
I must have told this before on the podcast, but I remember we'd been out one Christmas party. So obviously we'd had a few to drink. I'm going back a long time now. And I remember as we left, seeing one of my Sunday team sat on the floor outside the bar we were. And I was thinking, oh, there's no way she's going to be in tomorrow. I'm going to be doing a return to work with her on Monday. So of course she didn't turn up on the Sunday. And I remember sitting down with her and I'd got my return to work there and I was being all managerial and was like, so why didn't you turn up yesterday? Explain your absence kind of thing. She's like, well, quite honestly, girl, I was hungover. And it completely threw me because I was like, that's not in my management manual. What do I say now? So I found myself kind of going, well, thanks very much for being honest. Because I had no idea how to manage that kind of thing. So there's a lot of learning, isn't there?
One story that pays particular attention to me from that is the same. So I think I was one of the youngest stock managers in the company, about 21. And then eventually when I became a store manager, I was managing people double, triple my age almost. And that was quite a daunting thing. Who's this 25-year-old coming into this store and telling me what to do? And I remember I had a couple of people like that. So I had to very quickly build rapport with them, kind of get on their side in a way, and just kind of give them the expectation of what I do. And I was able to build friends through those people. Unfortunately, lovely lady Sue, she's not around anymore. She passed away, unfortunately. But she was like the people, like we mentioned off air, the kind of people that should have probably had a few warnings or a few disciplinaries, for her attitude and that. She was in her early 60s, so she was ready to go. She wasn't going anywhere, but she was going to wait until the last day. And I thought, I'm going, oh, Jesus Christ, And I managed to just quickly build with her, get on the right side. And she liked me and she understood me. And we just got on like that. And everyone was like, just watch out for Sue. And it took me a while to get there. But after a while, I just found out, hang on, we've got a common ground here. There's I made her laugh all the time. And I just built that rapport quick so we could get onto it. The same store, though. I won't say this name. I doubt he will ever listen to podcasts. But I had to sack someone for stealing.
Oh.
And the store that I was a stock manager in is when I first met him. I had countless, loveliest guy in the world, absolute loveliest guy in the world. He had Asperger's. And what was great about it was that anytime I asked him to do something, he would tell me exactly why he was doing it. So if I said, Carl, we just need to finish up the day, let's just sweep up the stock room, he'd tell me exactly what brush he was going to use and why he would use it. And I was like, fantastic, great. And then he got on to like talking about games and he'd always tell me about every single character and all that. We had a few like Nintendo DS games go missing. We just couldn't work it out. Shrinkage would come in and go, what's going on, Ricky? I'm like, I don't know. I can't find it. It came in, it's not here. Anyway, we had some suspicions. Anyway, about 4 years later, I went back to that store as store manager. And on my last 2 weeks before I left, sacked him. I found him, got him. And we had to get a private camera set up inside the jewelry counter. And we caught him. And what he was doing, he was putting the Nintendo DS games down his trousers.
Oh, no. Wow.
But we later found out he doesn't wear pants or underwear.
Oh.
So it was like,
oh no. Oh.
So that was a nice thing. But again, having those conversations, if we link it to confidence, Jesus Christ, hang on. You mean I've got to talk to someone, I'm going to sack him and potentially he's now not going to have a job, paying for his keep and all that. You think, wow, tough times. But those conversations at an early age help shape us, right?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about now all the disciplinaries and investigations I did, where I had to, a lot of the time it was for staff discount abuse, because it was obviously a very generous discount, and money going missing and stuff like that. Not always not in my own store, actually, in other stores where I would help out on the region. But you're right, actually, and I had this conversation with Nikki Forster from the Curious Lighthouse, and we were talking about our comfort zone and how when we were younger, because she's got a similar background to us as well, you know, how when we were younger, we'd go in headlong to those things and not really give them much thought. And now we're a little bit older, we were questioning whether is this a comfort zone thing that just that we're more confident and actually we know what we like and we know how to do it and we've got experience. That's quite a good podcast episode as well. But it's fascinating because now I would really overthink a conversation like that. I mean, I would do it, but I would I mean, I think I'd win gold at Olympic sport overthinking. Stand back, everybody. The top step's mine.
Yeah. So you reminded me of something, and you're absolutely right. Yeah, I would just go into it headstrong. And when I became a store manager in my final store, I was probably still mid-20s, 25, 26. I remember the worst conversation I ever had. And I look back in hindsight, I'm just like, oh, you know, chills about this horrible moment. It's stressful. You've got your regional managers putting pressure on you to hitting sales, hitting cards and product care and all that, the extra add-ons. And I remember my stock manager, now knowing what I know now, because at the time it wasn't really talked about, he said he had anxiety and he wasn't coming in. And this is horrible. And I absolutely feel ashamed to say this now. But I remember saying to my ops manager, what a bloody wuss, get on the phone and get in. You know what I mean? And I feel dreadful now. And I know because it was just because I had my blinkers on. I had the pressure from my ops manager to say, Ricky, you need to crack on. You know, and that's a terrible excuse. Now knowing what I know about anxiety and how people feel, oh my God, I feel dreadful. Now I do think there's a bit of I do think he was a bit of a piss taker as well. So I'll give him that bit. Yeah. But genuinely, I think, you know, if he was having a really tough time in his life and then working at that time was really hard on his mental health, I feel so awful now to say that that's what I said. But again, I was young, I was naive. I didn't know better. So now, you know, if I had that time machine, I would definitely go back and say, Ricky, just wait. Just seek to understand first and then work out what you need to do. So, but again, great learnings, right? Now I can understand if I do that again. So yeah, horrible. Yeah. Oh God, I hate that moment, but
a shiver of, so
yeah,
look, I mean, right. I say this to a lot of my guests, but genuinely we could chat all day. One of the reasons I wanted you to come on was I wanted us to talk. We've already done some sweeping statements about men shopping on Christmas Eve. Yeah. I'm sure there are men out there that do it earlier, but you know, I really want to talk to you about the difference between men and women versus in terms of confidence. So some of the research that I've read kind of says, and this is really obvious, right? But women will always underestimate their abilities and their performance, and men will tend to overestimate. But actually, when it comes down to the actual performance, there's no difference. That, you know, it's the same. What do you think is the difference between, and I'm using confidence here in a real general term, because there's probably about 50 million different podcasts we could do on each part that makes up confidence. But in general, what would you say is the main difference that you see with men and women?
So I guess from if I was thinking Confident Club aspect, so in terms of the Confident Club, we run a workshop called Presentation Mastery. But secretly, it's all about beliefs and confidence. We don't teach a single thing about PowerPoint. We teach people to be confident, get into state, and communicate with impact. We get a wide mix of people that join that workshop. We work for companies such as Coca-Cola, Audible, Vistaprint. And so we'll have people like senior leaders, ops managers, directors, and that's a whole mix of men and women. Typically, what we see, and this isn't a generalization, not all the time, but typically we see with confidence, I think that, and again, this is just from my experience, so not a generalizing sweeping statement.
No.
But women trying to get their voice heard is a big thing. So obviously we have a lot of these kind of, you know, alpha males that are just dominating the boardroom. So what we tend to do is we help them become more confident so they can speak, they have got value to share. But when they come on day one, we see this where they're, you know, a little bit nervous, and there's a typical presence that women tend to have when they present. I can't do it because I'm sitting down, but younger women, this is more in where they stand, they'll kind of cross their legs and do this sort of thing.
Okay, yeah, you know, I've seen that, yeah.
If you know what I mean, the balancing thing like this, and you know, playing with hair or something like that. And again, it's because of the experience that they've had where they've not been able to speak up, or because of their roles in the past. So fundamentally, what we help them do is to understand, actually, you do have value to share. Actually, this is how we're going to teach you how to communicate that with impact. So again, that could well be just because of experience,
Yeah.
past
Yeah.
presentations, things like that. We know that a lot of beliefs are shaped from an early age. We
Yep.
typically see a lot of people that come on the workshop that have really bad limiting beliefs of like, I don't have value to add, so no one's going to
What's
listen
the
to me.
point?
Well, actually, let's just unpick that and actually, what's the evidence to support that? Oh, well, this is what's happened in the past. Okay, so it's just an outcome. Okay, what else? Um, yeah, it's like, okay, so it's just one outcome. It's not true. Well, okay, when was that? Oh, 15 years ago. Okay, 15 years ago. Great. So now let's do this again, and we get people on day 2 to go, oh, okay. So you mean I can absolutely stand here, communicate with impact, and have power? Yeah, absolutely. So typically in the experience that we see, that's the main thing we tend to see. It's like, I just want my voice to be heard because I sit in a boardroom full of men. Sometimes I'll be the only woman in that room and I'm just the minority. So I really want to make sure that I stand there and show how confident I am and I've got value to share. That's typically the examples
Yeah.
we see. Yeah.
And it's interesting to hear that that's a lot of the stuff that I come across in one-to-one coaching. Probably you do too, I'm sure. Where the experience and lots of people have seen my confidence iceberg. Your upbringing, very bottom, deep kind of rooted, and then your experiences and your environment that are really closely linked, aren't they? Our
Yeah.
experiences shape our memories that are kept at the forefront of our minds. So when we're going to do that same thing again, we go in, oh yeah, 15 years ago, this presentation didn't go very well, or I spoke up and I didn't feel like I was heard, or I was
Yeah.
I was spoke over, or I was talked at, or whatever
Yeah.
that looks like. How does that
Yeah.
play out for the males in the room?
What, when we coach the women?
Yeah. I guess like what I'm interested in is probably how they turn up, because you did this, by the way, as well. It's catching, clearly. But I I wonder whether when they turn up, and because you described them being almost like alpha males,
Yeah.
how does it play out in the room? Do they start really confident but end up
Mm.
still confident but less alpha male, maybe?
Yeah, sure. So I think so. We get a wide mix. We get people that rock up and making assumptions. We shouldn't make assumptions, but you see their job title, you think, oh, okay, they're
Yeah.
probably going to be really confident because of how high up they are. And they're absolutely not at all. They absolutely brilliant. They're very good at what they do, but if we get them to stand up and present, they just absolutely lose their state. They can't do it. So we've seen people where we think, oh, you know what, maybe I'm going to get some challenges today, and actually, no, it's completely broken. Equally, we see this where I've had it where I've got some really strong confidence, like confident women. We did Muller quite recently, and there was this lovely woman in there, and she absolutely smashed it out of the park. We had an alpha male in that group, and then by the end of day 2, he went a bit more quieter because I think he went in with that full dominance of like, hey, I'm going to absolutely nail this in front of everyone. And he realized that, oh, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am because this other woman just
Interesting.
absolutely nailed it. And so here's an example of what happened was, so she had a bit of a belief of like, I start my presentation like, next slide, hello, my name is, I just call her Jane. It's not Jane.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Jane. And this is what I'm going to talk to you today about. And we got her to adopt a principle about, storytelling confidence. And they're all in the room like, what do you mean? Start off my presentation with my story. Yeah. Because we know that with presentations, recency and primacy, most important part of any presentation is the start and the end. Quite
Yeah.
often, what we have to do is get people in the room, either wake them up or add curiosity. So we got her to talk about this story, and we do a session. I'm not going to say what the session is called because if anyone's
No.
listening is coming on, they'll go, "Oh my god, I'm not doing that."
No
But we gave her
spoilers.
a topic to talk about. Yeah, no spoilers.
Yeah.
We gave her a topic to talk about, and we gave her like a limited amount of time, and she just had to think of it on the spot and did it. She said, "Brilliant." She said, "Really?" I said, yeah. Start your presentation with that. She said, "Why?" I said, "Because you're going to add curiosity. It's such a great story, but then there's a link."
Yeah.
So what she did, she told this story, wonderful story about how she hates birthdays. And she told her husband, I do not want a surprise birthday. She was at a milestone where she didn't want to feel that was her age and acknowledge that.
Okay.
So she made it very clear to her husband she didn't want to be having a surprise birthday. Her husband didn't listen and made a surprise birthday party. And it was fantastic. And what happened was she told that story, and it was only for a minute long. And she said, we helped her with this link. And she said, so the reason I'm telling this story is this: we need to start listening to our teams. And the whole
Wow.
presentation that she started to deliver was about diversity and inclusion, about having your voice being heard. So she was practicing it because she's got a big conference later this year, I think in front of 300 people on a big stage.
Okay.
She said, do not now go on that stage and just go, hi, my name's Jane. Today I'm going to talk to you about this. Come on and just start with that story. 2 years ago, my husband, da-da-da-da. So this is why I'm telling this story, because we're just not listening to our teams. And
Wow.
it just broke the ice so well. And she walked away going, oh my God, so my stories add value. Yeah, they do. And that's how you can create such a wonderful impact, because people will remember that. It's sticky.
Yeah.
It will hit them. It will resonate with people. And that's what people will remember. They will not remember the slides. Slides come and go. Stories stick, and stories are memorable. So can't remember the question now that you asked me, but don't know if that helped. The answer.
No, neither can I. But what a great story. And what a great... it's personal, isn't it? I think what I'm trying to because I went, oh yeah, wow, what a great link that is. But also that story is personal to you, so it's something you remember. So relaying that is easier, gives you have more confidence in doing that, rather than going, hi, I'm Gail, and today I'm going to talk to you about da 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 da.
Yeah.
And people have switched off thinking, God, how many slides are there going to be here? Whereas actually that is the story that I would remember, and then I go, oh yeah, and the talk was about this, and I learned this. But actually, that's the bit that you really remember.
Yeah. And it works
brilliant.
in a virtual environment as well, because as we see, right, I'll try and do this on the camera for Cam. Let's say we're in a big networking meeting. They say, right, we're going to hand over now to Ricky. Ricky's going to present. And I do this and I go, yeah, hi guys, just click screen share. Yeah. Okay. Can everyone see the slides? Yeah. Okay. Hi, my name's Ricky. I'm going to teach today about confidence. No. Instead, go, we're going to move over to Ricky now. Great, cool. Here we go. So they go, Ricky, clap, 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 clap. And I just start off with this. People won't remember what you said. They won't remember what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Who's heard of this quote before? Raise your hands. Great. Today, I'm going to share with you the 3 most important ideas I know that can help us drive great customer experience. So something like that, you can start with a story or start with a quote to get people in the room, rather than going, hi, my name's Ricky, let's do a bit of housekeeping first, fire exits and all this. No. Most important part of any presentation is get people in the room. And then obviously what's your ending message? And I think that's what links as well to confidence, is where people in the past have just thought, you know what, my stories don't add value. What do you mean I can tell a personal story about my husband? It works because it resonates with people and there's a link. You can 99% link anything. There's a great methodology where you can take an item and talk about it and make it link. So give me a random subject. We'll try this now. Anything like a random item.
Oh, no, I'm no good on this. There's me going, no, I'm no good on the spot. A random subject that you can link. Oh,
And hopefully you don't have to edit this out if I can't link it.
I told you I'm not doing any editing. So now you're testing my confidence, aren't you? What about having a pint in the pub?
Having a pint in the pub, cool. So I could, let's say, I'm talking about a story about, so 2 weeks ago, I'm sitting in Luton Airport. I'm so excited, Gail, so excited. My flight's about an hour away. We're chilling, we're relaxing. I've got my daughter, I've got my wife there. And I'm so excited because just as something arrives, this nice, shiny glass of cider. It's 6 a.m. I'm dead excited. I can't wait for it. And I down that drink. Now, I'm not going to go into the full story, but you can say, here's the apprehension. I'm now worried. I've now been intoxicated. I've got my flight in now 30 minutes. Now I get a bit of anxiety because I'm thinking maybe I'm a bit over the limit. I had another cheeky one before that as well. And whatever. And you can say, we can link it to the confidence and say, actually, do you know what? Sometimes we need to be brave. We need to be confident. We need to do things to make us feel a bit more relaxed. So that's probably not a great example there to link it. But 99%, you can literally link anything to. Talk about that and link it. So if we was to say like pint pubs, okay, pubs, what's going on? So pubs, loud environment. You've got lots of people around. It's a dark, scary place. What does it mean? Okay, so we've got to be brave. Yeah, okay, great. So need to be brave. What else? Bit of courage, maybe reaching into the bar. Got to shout at the bar if it's like a really, really busy bar and say, excuse me, yeah, I'm next, that kind of thing. you could link that to like, we've got to have my voice heard. We've got to
Yeah.
start making our voices heard in this business. I was standing at this bar for 15 minutes and they just would not acknowledge me. And you know what? I'm telling you the story. It's because we're not having our voices heard in this business.
Yeah.
Now it's time that we start listening to our team. You can kind of see where I'm going.
But they're both great examples though, because the drinking before, to relax, however we want to use that, and then thinking, what went through my mind was, oh no, I'm going to have to get up on the flight and go to the loo. It's those kind of things, the reaction. But also the interesting one about the bar thing. It's not a pub, but I remember when I was much smaller, and we used to have a few shops around the house from where we lived, and I remember Mum saying, go and get us a fish and chip dinner. And I went round there and the counter was so high I couldn't see over the counter and they didn't see me, and I went back and Mum was like, well, where's our dinner? And I'm like, they couldn't see me over the counter, so she had to come back with me. But there is something in the whole going to the bar. So I think probably a few years ago, I hated going to the bar. I hated having to, right, I'm doing a sweeping generalisation here, be at that bar with lots of men, being the only woman and going, can I have a pint of this and a pint of that? And then these big pants kind of came into my life. and it was like, no, I'll go. And actually now I am much more confident. So it's a bit of a point of, I can be at the bar as well. That's a really silly example, but there is that bit of, I want my voice to be heard. I can stand at the bar to an order.
Yeah.
send Paul.
Yeah, well, you could always start off one of your next confidence sessions by telling that story. Because it will resonate with people. Yeah, I've been in that position. And you can say in the linking, like, do you know what? Sometimes we have to be brave. Yeah. We have to step out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. That was the only woman in that bar. Do you know what? By stepping out of that, I was able to get what I wanted. And I made my family happy and I made the most magical memories that day. Yeah. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't have made that. So we need to start thinking about how we're going to step out of our comfort zone. And that's what we're going to explore today. So, you can link it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing a talk in a few weeks, and you've now got me thinking about where's the story. I would normally tell stories in the middle, but I'm now thinking about that's the story bit at the beginning, and how important it is. Because I always think because I have some clients that I'm working on with presentations as well, and I always say to them, think about it like the news. Tell them what you're going to tell them, like a headline, then tell them the middle bit, and then the end. Then summarize at the end. So it's the headline, the grabbing piece, isn't it? That like, either I'm going to turn off or I'm going to listen in. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like clickbait emails, isn't it? Right. You get the big subject header. This made me £10 million. You go, oh, that sounds exciting. Yeah. And then you go into the email. It says, hi, Gail. I want to tell you today about something that really happened to me over the last week. It's this really exciting thing. You think, oh, God, what? They've got me, though. And that's the main thing. It's that curiosity. Yeah. So you can start anything off with a story and then come back to it. Sometimes we see this where we talk about, say, the middle of the story. So we'll get people and say, here's an example, right? So this was a wedding that I was 4 hours late for. It's about 9 years ago, a long time ago. But I stand there, I'm on the phone, and the woman at the reception is saying to me, excuse me, Miss Locke, where are you? Oh, hi, I'm at home. Oh, okay. Are you coming to Adam and Kareen's wedding? Adam and Kareen's wedding, that's tomorrow. And they go, no, it's right now. They're in front of me right now eating their dinner. That was me 9 years ago. Then you go into a little bit and then you come back to it again. So then you go back into the story later on and then you repeat that message. So there's loads of cool things you could do there. And that can also help people become more confident because their stories are personal to them. So they're happy to tell it, Yeah. We always talk about conversationalists as well. Like a story should be like you're in the pub having some fun. I don't know why we're not big. I'm not big.
I know. We're like,
pubs. Who knows what's going on?
Yeah, just find me in the pub.
Yeah.
And I think that the link there, sorry, with confidence for me is that those stories are personal. So you're not having to learn anything. There's emotion connected to it, which gets, and you'll get that feedback as well from the audience that then also gives you confidence because you can see. And it's a bit more difficult on screen. We all know that. One of the things I don't love doing workshops and that online, and I did some last year, and I was like, oh, how can I make this more interesting? So I sent them a whiteboard. So rather than us using the screen, but then I foolishly I'd probably do this again, but I foolishly did an activity where on their whiteboards they had to write the answer that was either top, middle, or bottom. So you know what happened when they all wrote bottom? I got a screen full of bottoms. And somebody was actually, and I was like, well, actually, that made everybody laugh, and it was quite good fun. But and then I reflected on that, and thought, no, I probably would do that again, because it kind of made it, and that was the whole reason why I wanted to do it a bit more interactive, so that we could have a bit more of a laugh and a bit more fun, kind of thing. So I did take that picture. So look, we're going to wrap up now, because literally we will be here all day otherwise, and I'm sure you've got other things to do as well. What's your favourite tip or trick for somebody to practice their confidence, or to get into the confident flow? Because we've talked, haven't we, about confidence being a flow. I think it's a practice as well. You have to practice being in that flow. So what's your favourite tip or trick?
Can I give two?
Yeah, go on then, because it's you.
Okay. So this has been a massive belief of mine all my life, which is say yes and learn how to do it later. Most people just go, event plus response equals the outcome. I'm not doing that. I always believe you should say yes. If you get those butterflies flapping, that's a good sign. You just now got to get them flying information. That's one of my favorite phrases that my mentor, Steve McDermott, taught me. And I just love the idea, because if you say yes and learn how to do it later, you have that motivation that you've got to do it. And I don't believe in failure at all. I just believe that everything's an outcome. I've taken it out of my vocabulary. It doesn't make sense. It's just a word. Everything's just an outcome, and everything I can learn from. When I used to do hypnosis, I used to do hypnosis shows, the very first time I would do hypnosis, if I went up to someone and say, hey, I'd like to do a hypnosis little experiment with you. I've never done it before, though. Would you mind if I do it? They're like, no. So you have to say, I've hypnotized thousands of people all over the world, and not one of them has woken up and now still clucking like a chicken. And then you kind of make them feel great. And they kind of, oh, okay, cool. But when you start doing it, and when I got booked for hypnosis shows, I would say, yes, sure, I'll do a hypnosis show. Oh my God, I don't know what to do now. Now I'm going to learn how to do it, because I've got to show up. I can't look silly now. So I know it's a scary thing to do, but sometimes it gives you that momentum to then go do it. So that's a good confidence tip, is to just always say yes, or go do something, because you can learn from it. And you get better. Anytime I did a magic trick, Gail, that was new, I'd always do it at the end of a wedding or the end of an event, because if it didn't work, my time was finished. I was going home. If it did work, I'd go, how fascinating. I can record it. Let me do that again. And I'll go do it somewhere else. So I'd probably stay a bit over time, but it would be, that doesn't matter, because I'm just going home.
That's a great idea. The second tip
then is to think about getting into state and anchoring. Anchor's a big thing for me. And for those, Gail, are you married? Sorry?
Yes.
You are married. Can you tell me what your first dance song was?
It Must Be Love by Madness.
Oh, fantastic. Great song. So if you hear that on the radio today, you're probably going to instantly think of your husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it will make you feel something.
Yeah.
So we know that these anchors are incredibly powerful, and they can make us feel a certain state. What I do is, I don't know if you know the Circle of Awesome. Well, it's called the Circle of Excellence, but me and Ashley Griffith renamed it the Circle of Awesomeness. Yeah. Do you know this technique?
I don't think so.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so the Circle of Awesomeness is basically a technique where you stand up and imagine on the floor a big circle. And inside that circle is you at your very best, you being the confident version of you. So I imagine a time when I was on stage to 850 people. It's one of my favorite memories. And I just look and I close my eyes. What you do is you see what you saw, hear what you heard, and feel what you felt at that time. And just start to put those pictures and those stories and play it like a movie in your head. What will happen if it's a really good time, you start to feel really relaxed, feel really great. And if you want to, play a soundtrack to that as well. So I will listen to a song. There's a song called The House That Heaven Built by Japan Droids. One of my favorite songs, gets me into state. And I play that and I just start visualizing it. And then when you're ready, you literally take a step forward into that big circle, just receive all of that you feel. And at the time, you'll see you'll relax, you'll feel great. And then when you're done, you can open your eyes and you can just fold the circle up and put it in your pocket. And whenever you need to get into a confident state, you can do that anytime. So anytime I'm going, a bit of a wobble, I'm just going to take some deep breaths. I'm going to put my headphones on. I'm going to listen to that song because that's what gets me fired up. I've anchored it so strongly. And I'm just going to think about that time when I was really, really confident and then go, yeah, I feel good now. That's it.
Yeah,
So
great.
check it out for anyone if you want to look into it. You can Google it as well, the Circle of Excellence. It's a really good top tip. It's an NLP anchoring technique that can just get you into state. So anytime you've got a state wobble, okay, I'm just going to get into it. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Oh, they're great tips. I will find that and I'll add that into the show notes. So, Ricky, thank you. That's been an amazing conversation. I think you're going to have to come back and we're going to have to maybe pick a topic and then go with a topic. Sure. Every time, sometimes when I do podcasts, right, Siri decides that he wants to talk to me. It's really bizarre. Doesn't. If I had to use Siri, I probably wouldn't be able to do it, and I could just see it in the corner of my eye coming on then. But yeah, thank you. That brilliant. If somebody wants to find out more about you and your magic or the Confident Club, where can they find you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on LinkedIn as Ricky Locke. I'm also on Instagram. I'm quite active on Instagram as Ricky Locke Magic. And then the Confident Club is confidentclub.com. And I've also got the podcast, which is the Unlocked podcast. You can check that on all your favorite podcast platforms too.
Which we didn't even touch the surface of. So look, thank you. And join us next time, everybody, on the Confidence Conversations podcast.
Thank you very much.